This conference will now be recorded.
Hi everybody, I'm Naomi O'Hara from the Clinical Academy and I am joined today with Tanya Buxton. Morning, Tanya.
Hiya.
Now, Tanya and I decided last week or the week before that we were going to do a question and answer session all about needles. We both get a lot of questions about needles. And so we thought we'd do a bit of a question answer session. So we asked for you to send in your questions, anything to do with needles, anything to do with PMU really, and we'll answer it. Tanya, you have a traditional tattooist background and you're also a PMU artist.
That's right, yeah. So I've been tattooing traditionally for about 11 years now and moved into permanent makeup about 5 years ago, and recently medical tattooing as well.
Yep,
so
I've seen. Looks fab.
Thank you.
Great. And just so everybody knows, I've been tattooing permanent makeup and medical tattooing for about 15 years now. So we've got some experience with needles, and I think it's going to be really interesting to get a perspective on both PMU and traditional tattooing. So shall I read the first question out, Tanya?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favourite hairstroke needle, size and brand, and why? Okay, so for me, I think hairstroke wise, I like to mix it up a little bit. If I get quite young skin, I don't mind using single needles and maybe nano needles. I quite like the Ceres, where are they? The Ceres one liner. It's a 0.18 and I really like those, but I also like to mix it up a little bit, so I will use a 4 flat and also in the Ceres, and I also am a big fan of the Vertex 5UM. I love that needle because I can probably get with one pass just the amount of colour that I want in there, so I'm not having to go back over and over and over, so I can get as much colour in there as I want in probably one, maybe some of the hair strokes another pass, but mainly one pass. So they're my favourite go-to needles. Yeah.
Tanya? I find that me with singles as well, I tend to get asked for powder more than anything, but when I do hair strokes, I tend to go for a textured single needle.
Okay.
I'm a fan of Magic Moon needles. They're a tattoo needle, but they're really, really high quality. I've tried a few over the years, Tatsol, Killer Ink ones. Who else have I tried? Quadrant, all sorts. But I tend to I go back to Magic Moon. I think the PM world is joining the tattoo world with choices, but I find the actual traditional tattoo needles have more choice. So for me, a textured single needle, I find I get more pigment in the skin in one pass, like what you were saying with the needles as well.
Is that because it holds more pigment, do you think?
Yeah, so basically when you're looking for a textured needle, it will say on your little box code like textured next to it. So it's the needle taper, so the pointy bit of your needle, instead of it being all polished and smoothed, it's left kind of rough. So the theory is basically it just holds more pigment onto it because it's got that texturedness to it, the pigment to hold on to. I find single needles they're a bit of a pain in the arse.
I agree. It's nice to meet somebody else who does think that. I think sometimes single needles are a bit of a kind of kudos thing, that, I use a single needle for everything. And you think, okay, yeah, that's good, but is it actually the right needle for the job? And is it the right needle for that client's skin that you're doing? Because if you've got someone who's got really quite thin skin and they want hair strokes, I just find it awful, and I'd much rather have a slightly different needle, and I feel that I get much better result with something like a 4 flat or the 5UM for that client. Probably because I'm not having to overwork it as much.
I do find that as well. I know a lot of people, they get great results with single needles and they all love them, but for me, I think coming from tattooing, that my brain just isn't wired that way. Like if you say to a traditional tattoo artist, do me this line with a single needle, they'll think you're mental, because they're so dangerous, like, because they're so thin and they're so easy to blow out, like.
And I suppose for a larger area it's just not very efficient.
No, like I covered it really briefly. I did a presentation at ATB last year in Vegas, and I covered the needle choice thing real briefly. For me, the way I get my head around it is you choose your needle according to the job. Like, you know, if you were going to paint a big ceiling, you're not going to paint that ceiling with a toothbrush. You'd get a big roller and get it done in as fewer passes as possible. So yeah, sometimes I feel the smaller needle choice isn't always the way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Totally agree. Okay. Fabulous. Okay, do you want to read one of yours?
I wasn't as organised as Naomi, and I haven't written the full question down, basically. I'm so sorry. I got asked a lot about acupuncture needles, my thoughts on them, basically, what I use them for, things like that. I personally have never used an acupuncture needle. Again, I don't know if it's my tattoo brain, the thought of using a needle that isn't completely pointy at the end. If I'm right, they're kind of bullet shaped.
The ones that we stock, the Micro PMU series, and that's the new box. It's nice new box, actually. They are bullet shaped, you're right, and I do like them and I use them often. And again, I quite like them if I'm going to use a single needle for something like a lip or maybe an eyeliner, a larger eyeliner, because what I feel is that it doesn't snag sometimes on the skin. Whereas sometimes the more pointier needles, you're feeling like on certain skin types it's snagging because it's a little bit more bullet shaped. You don't get that snagging. So if you really love a single needle, but you find for certain clients you think, oh, I just can't use that on them, then I think the acupuncture needle is definitely the way to go, because it just doesn't snag like that. I feel like it's a little bit more gentler.
Right.
So yeah, maybe I'll send you some, Tanya. Have a go.
Thanks. I think I'm up for trying anything. Obviously, it's how you learn, isn't it? I think it's a trial and error thing. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Everything's work for different people, don't they?
And that's why we wanted to do this, wasn't it? That was what our kind of thought behind this was, that we can maybe agree to disagree on certain needles for certain clients, but actually neither is wrong. It's just what you prefer, and that's the art in it, I suppose.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think there's a place for single needles and single needle work, and I think there's a place for round shaders, and I think there's a place for mags. I think there's a place for it all, basically.
Yeah.
And just like in normal tattooing, it's the same. I choose the needle according to what tattoo I'm doing, the skin, the age of that person. So I think it's good to try everything.
Definitely.
But yeah, for me, I just kind of, maybe I'm a little bit set in my ways, even though I've just said that.
I think everybody is, but probably about 3 times, maybe 4 in my career, that my go-to needle has been totally out of stock in the whole of the world, it would seem. I don't know whether that's like a manufacturing issue at times or what, but and I've seen on social media people going, oh my God, this needle that I use is out of stock. Has anyone got a video on using a different needle or something? And I used to think that's such a shame, because you get stuck in your ways. So I really have kind of gone out of my way, if you like, to always, when I've placed my needle orders, to maybe put a box in that I've not tried before and seen how I can use them, because I never want to be in a situation where I can't use certain needles, or I don't know how to use certain needles, or that I don't know what effect they give me. So I think it's really important to just push yourself out your comfort zone and try all the needles. I really do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I do the same, like in permanent makeup and tattooing as well. So the reason, so obviously I was never taught with magnums when I did my permanent makeup training.
No.
I was never taught with that. I was taught with GoldenEye cartridges, permanent makeup cartridges. And obviously me looking at them, I could see they were just tattoo cartridges. So I took it upon myself to use a tattoo machine and a tattoo needle, and always have done. I've never used a PMU device or anything like that, because for me that they're all the same. But yeah, I just think trial and error is the way, really. I think once you've got your fundamentals down, you know you can get ink in the skin, you know the biting point, you know your technique, you know your hand, all of that. That's when you start experimenting, and I think that's when you learn what works for you.
And we were saying on the phone the other day that sometimes you can be, you know, first pass or midway into your treatment and think, nah, this needle is not working for me, I'm changing it. You know, it might even just be the needle, but just changing it for a different size or a different type is sometimes the way to go. So I was saying that I don't fight on. If I think, oh, I'm not liking this needle with this skin, I just change it. It's not worth not getting a good result, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So next question, mature lip. So would you prefer a 3-round liner or a 1-round liner? I think we've probably kind of answered that already. So yeah, I do like a 3-round liner for lips. I love 3-round liners, but I also like sort of like a 3 micro or a close knit 3-round liner for lips as well. What about yourself?
My go-to is I use a 3 bug pin liner.
Yeah,
for contour.
I've seen.
And then I use a 9 mag. And just get it in there.
Yeah, I do like a 9 Magnum on lips. I think I've been having some thinner lips through recently, and I think no, I don't need a 9 mag, not necessarily for you, but I do like a 9 Magnum actually. I'd like to try bigger.
Yeah, I've used an 11 on lips before. I haven't gone any bigger than that, but even when I'm doing my normal sort of traditional tattooing, I tend to stick with the 9, 11 mags, unless I'm doing a huge back piece or something, then obviously you choose your mag accordingly, same as the paintbrush thing. But yeah, I just find a 9 or an 11 is just comfortable enough for my hand. Me personally, I find the smaller you go and the larger you go, between a 9 and an 11, that's when you can start damaging the skin. They become a little bit trickier to tattoo with, I find. Definitely on mature lips, I probably would go for maybe like a 5 or an 8 round shader to do the bulk of the shading, not necessarily a mag. Again, and like thin lips, the same, maybe go for more of a larger round shader than an actual mag to get the bulk of the colour in, I think.
Fabulous. Fab. Okay. Why do my lip treatments keep healing too cool? I use a 1-round liner. There's a lot of 1-round liner questions here. Well, for me, if someone said, I've done a lip, I've used a 1-round liner, it's gone really cool, I probably would initially question the depth. Probably the colour as well, but because lips are, we were saying yesterday in my colour theory webinar, that lips are just a bag of blood, and they are, it sounds horrible, I know, but that is basically what they are. And they're naturally very cool, so you use too cool a colour for your client's lip tone and you end up with quite ashy lips or quite cool bluey tone lips. But 1-round liners just go into the skin really easily, like a hot knife through butter, and it's very easy to go too deep. And we were saying yesterday on the webinar that any colour planted too deeply is going to go cool, especially in the lips. So I think probably just watch your depth a little bit. Would you agree, Tanya?
I think again, this is my, not my issue, but a little bit. This is my thing with single liners. Just again, coming from the tattoo point of view, it's a difficult needle to tattoo with, and it's so easy to blow out. the easiest way I could probably think to describe it is if you imagine like your little tiny one needle is a stiletto heel, and imagine say like your 5-liner or your 7-round shader, that's a trainer. Like, which one would you prefer to be trodden on with? That stiletto heel is just gonna go right into your
through. Not nice. Good analogy. I like that. I'll be using that.
And I think that's with single needles, it's, unless you're experienced in machine work and just experienced in tattooing, I feel like you could get yourself in trouble with single needles because of the depth issue, because it's just so easy.
A lot of people are taught from scratch, from beginner level, to use a single needle, and I think that is sometimes a bit of an ease part on the trainer's side, because you have only got one needle for your student to think about. So, you know, and some people get on with that absolutely fine. But I think sometimes when you're being taught with something like a 4 flat or a 5 or a 3 sloped, you've actually got multiple needles to think about going through a hair stroke. And that's why I think sometimes people think, oh, do you know what, we'll stick with the 1-liner, because maybe new people can't get their head around keeping all of those needles into one hair stroke. But we do favour for our training the 4 flats, the 3 slopes, the 5 Sometimes we'll move on to a 1-liner if people are particularly skilled on their basic training, but I'm the same as you. I really like a multiple needle. I think you're just less likely to go too deep with those. It's not impossible, because you're only human, and you put too much pressure on, you're going to go too deep. But I think it's definitely not as easy to cause as much damage with a larger needle configuration.
I kind of think as well, if you're just taught initially with a single needle, you're not experienced in the whole of the world of needles that's out there, kind of thing. So you become a bit of a one-trick pony, I find.
I think people are sometimes. I think it's sad, because you get, you know, not are you getting set in your ways and you're choosing to use those needles. You don't sometimes know that other needles exist. And that is a shame.
Yourself, do you? Like you say, like different skin types, or if you know, say you've got a mature lady who's wanting a lip and all you use is a single needle, that combination, like, you're gonna get in trouble with, really. And I think
really quick,
if you don't have that experience or the knowledge behind you, you've restricted yourself in your clientele and what you can offer already. So I do think it's important to have a go with everything and be able to use everything if needs be. Still have your favourites. Like, my favourites are still my 3-liner and my 9 mag combo, but if I need to, I can use other stuff. So I think it's important to know everything. Definitely.
Absolutely. Okay, so next question. I'm not getting on with the 1-round liner that I was trained with to use for hair strokes and shaded brows. What could I try instead? So what do you use for your powdered brows? Because you do a lot of powder, don't you?
Yeah, so my powder brows are really popular for me. I think that they're more versatile, aren't they? I try and sway people towards the powder as well. You can do a bit more things with them. So I tend to use the same as what I use on lips. It's the 3 bug pin to get my kind of shape in there and neaten up any edges, and then I go in with a 9 mag. Obviously, again, depending on the skin and the brow type as well. If it's it's an older lady who wants like a thin brow, then I'd probably even just a 3 bug pin altogether if I wanted that softer shading. So I think it depends.
Just explain to people, Tanya, what a bug pin is.
So a bug pin is how do I describe it? Your individual needle, the diameter is smaller than your standard needle. So you've got...
So probably similar to our 3 micro versus our 3-liner?
So no, so a 3-liner, a 3-liner would be a standard, which is a...
But the 3 micro might be like a bug pin, would it?
Yeah, so there's loads of different coding that all basically means the same thing. So a bug pin is a 0.25 diameter.
Okay, then so our micros are a bit smaller than that then.
I think, are they nanos when it's smaller?
Yeah.
Are they nanos?
Probably similar to that, yeah. In comparison, they might not even be a comparison exactly to a bug pin, Tanya, but they're smaller than your 3-round liner.
Yeah, so you a normal liner is just standard, which I think is like a 0.35,
yeah,
or a gauge 12, and then you
0.30,
go down,
yeah.
yeah. So anything that doesn't specify that it's different will be your 0.35 diameter, 0.35 millimeters. It's millimeters. Yeah. That's the number. Or your gauge, which is like a 12 gauge, a 10 gauge, an 8 gauge. Yeah. Which is saying it's like the metric and the imperial.
Yeah, and we're becoming a lot more likened to those way of reading the codes on needle boxes now, because we used to just have 3-round liner. I don't think some of the boxes even told you what diameter they were even on the needles. So now we're kind of crossing over to the Vertex, the Micro PMU series, the Ceres, the Quartz. They all tell you whether it's a longer taper, whether it's an extra long taper, whether it's 08 or a 12. So you know exactly the diameter that you're using and what shape your needle is. So that's so important.
And all this terminology comes from traditional tattoo needles.
Yeah,
that's where all the terminology comes from. And as soon as you've wrapped your head around it and you know what it all means, understanding box codes and understanding the terminology and stuff, it is really, really simple. I think at first it's a bit, because there's so much to take in and it's unfamiliar. You're like, what the fucking hell's a 0.8 LT?
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it's probably harder to maybe have been doing it for a few years and then to change over to a different coding of your needle to know what the size is. You think, okay, well, how does that compare to what I've been using? Then it probably is to learn it from scratch. So most of our beginners now are having things like Zion S's or Bilars or the Cayenne machine over a permanent makeup machine, and therefore they're using these needles. So they're learning from scratch and they don't know any different. So, and they're definitely picking it up easier than maybe some of our PMU artists that have been doing it for 5 years that, have known the other codes or not known codes before. So definitely easier.
The funny thing is really is that all your PMU machines and your needles and stuff like that, they've all come from tattoo companies, but they've just been under like sister names, if you like. So I think it was just I think it wasn't embraced as tattooing for a really long time, so that's why things were given different names, and the machines weren't called tattoo machines and things like that. But I think it's important
to make it pretty, Tanya.
Yeah. More like a shiny pink machine, like. But I think it's just important, especially PMU artists that have been doing it for a long time and maybe don't understand the difference. Like, there is no difference really. They were just named different, but it has come from tattooing, and that's where it has sprouted from originally, kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's good we're embracing each other.
Oh.
I do not waffle on, don't I?
No, I was like, it's good that we're embracing each other. That's what I was smiling at, because we're sat here on our own.
It's amazing, though. Like, when I did my training like 5 years ago, and the trainer who trained me, even then, that was only 5 years ago, and I said I was using her machine, and I was like, this is a tattoo machine. And she told me how much this device was, and I was a bit like, are you joking me? Like, my tattoo machine's like half the price of that.
Yeah.
And it even blew her mind. She was like, what do you mean a tattoo needle? What do you mean a tattoo machine? Like, what do you mean a clip cord? And I was like, they're the same.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
It was, I think even a shorter time as then, it's changed so drastically. It
is a very fast-paced industry, very fast-paced.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, I must admit. And I think it's nice that people are kind of embracing what tattoo artists have got to say as well, because I do think we can both help each other, by both industries, and it will be exciting to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. So best needle, I think you've probably potentially answered this, but answer it again for this question for this person. Best needle for ombre or a lightly powdered pixelated brow?
So for me, if I want to do pixelated shading, I use, again, it depends the kind of pixelated shading. If I want to go super, super soft, I'll go for a 3 bug pin liner. Say on a maturer skin, or someone who real fair skin, or like light brow hair who doesn't want anything too dramatic. You can also do your pixelated shading with, say, like a 5 bug pin liner. It basically so pixelated shading is a traditional tattoo technique called stippling, where you, with a liner, you almost whip it really quickly and it makes those little nice dots. So I kind of just choose my needle according to the size of the little dots I want to make. So obviously, if I want to make little fine pixelated dots, I'll use a smaller needle, like a 3 bug pin. Or if I want to go, still have that powdery effect, but a little bit more dramatic, I'd use a 5, because obviously the 5 would just make those dots a little bit bigger. And it's just the same technique, really. So yeah, depending on how powdery I wanted to go, it would be a 3 bug pin or like a 5 bug pin. Yeah.
Okay. I'm fairly different, but this is probably my most fickle choice of needle for this treatment, in that I think it's probably more my personality, in that I like to mix things up. I don't like to have a set needle for a set thing. I get bored quite easily, so I like to really mix up my needles for ombre and pixelation. So sometimes I will use a single needle. I feel that takes a long time, and I like to create a bit more density in the bottom part of my brow, so a bit of a 3D effect, so it looks like it's standing out quite proud from the skin, especially if they've not got a lot of hair. So I will use, I love a 4 flat, because if I'm going to do a combination brow, I can use it for hair strokes on its edge, and I can then use it in a paddle effect on its side like that for pixelation. So I love that. I love the 5UM for that as well. So if I'm going to add a few hair strokes, if people have got patches where they've got no hair in a certain area and then a lot of hair in another area, I'll do some hair strokes where they've got no hair, and then I'll put a bit of powdering in. I just don't like it when people have got clumps of hair and then none. You almost get like a bushy area and then a flat area, and so I try to even up the texture of it a little bit. So I do like that, but I do like a 5 round shader for whip shading as well, and a 3 actually. So yeah, all of the above. I don't mind what needle actually for ombre or powder. I feel like I can adapt a bit, but
if I'm going for like a full
depends
ombre,
on the day.
If I'm going for a full ombre, I'll get my 9 mag out. Like what you say, I like the bulk of it, like from the arch, and kind of flick it up. So if I'm going for more of a full ombre and not necessarily a pixelated look, I'd use my mag and whip shade. With a mag, so you still kind of get that powdery finish when you whip shade with a mag, but then I just find with a mag you can really pack in that colour as well. So yeah, I'm sort of
I have used a Magnum, a 9 mag for brows. Wouldn't be my go-to, but on occasions, yes, I have used.
It will be when I come down and do the training.
You reckon? Yes, because you're coming down in June to do a Magnum masterclass, aren't you? I'm very much looking forward to that. In fact, I might have my brows done.
Yes, let's do it.
I haven't had them done for a little while. Actually, that's a lie. I did my own a few weeks ago, but it's not quite the same.
No, I was tempted to do mine while I was off, and my lips as well, but I thought, oh, do you know what? If it goes wrong for any reason, that's rubbish advertisement for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the same doing your own. It's not the same. You can't feel it the same. But Brill, okay. Any other questions that you've had in?
We covered a few actually. So I was asked needle choices for different skin types. So again, I think like what we were talking about, for me, like there's not just one needle that fits all. For me, I think depending on the skin type, like what we were saying, like an older skin, I would be tempted to go for like a thicker needle, if you like. I don't feel like a single would be good for a thinner, maturer skin. The same as I don't think it would be good for like an oily type skin. If I've got someone who's got particularly oily skin, I tend to use the bigger needles, so like a bigger round liner or a mag or something, just to get the colour in more. I find oilier skins, they're almost like a bit tougher. I don't know about you. So I just find
a bit bouncier, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's like they're a bit thicker or something. Like you just have to work for it a bit more, don't you? So I find like a thinner needle, like a single or a 3 bug pin, isn't always necessarily the one for an oily skin. But something, say like a 5 round shader or a 9 mag to get a nice ombre powder or something in there, I just think it gets it in quicker, so it's less traumatic. So you're getting less swelling and things like that on the skin, and there's fewer passes for me as well then, so you've got less scabbing,
less trauma,
rather than struggle, I think, with a smaller needle that isn't suitable for a skin type, and you're just going over and over and over it again, your healed results aren't going to be as good if you're going over and over and over that skin. So I find the trickier skins, I up my needle group in size, basically. I don't know, what do you think?
Exactly the same. If I get trickier skin, I definitely up my needle configuration size. Absolutely, 100%. Totally agree. We agree on that one. Thank you. It's been really great speaking with you, and I know we're going to speak again soon. And you're with us for your masterclass, your Magnum masterclass.
Yes.
Day 1 theory, day 2 models, and hopefully I get my brows done that day as well. And I look forward to coming. And you can book that at www.theclinicalacademy.com. And if you just type Tanya into the search bar, her class will come up. So thank you, Tanya.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it. Yeah, we'll have to do it.
And I did too. Take care.
You too. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.